Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So guys, before I start, I want to thank all my patrons. I want to thank all my subscribers. I want to thank all the people who like and share my videos. And for that matter, all the people who donate Super Cash. You guys are immensely appreciated. I thank you very much. Do you remember this map? Let me flip over to this. Wait a minute. Here we are. Do you remember this? It was about 1 in the morning when I saw this chart for the first time. Now, I gotta be honest, I didn't know how to process this. Early in the day when I was talking to a Hillary Clinton supporter, he was telling me how Hillary Clinton was going to win by 300 and something votes, like 330 votes. He was like, it's a lock. It's a lock. It's election day. Huffington Post has the win. Hillary Clinton winning by 98% to 2%. I said, I think you're insane. That's the first point. And I said, I got to be honest, dude. I don't see how she wins. Now, I assumed she was going to win because that was my emotional thing of, I assume she has to win. But logically, as I looked at it, my feeling was many of these states were trending Trump, particularly like Wisconsin. There were stories that at the last minute, they were sending people to Wisconsin because Wisconsin was falling, that type of stuff when they were doing polling. So I couldn't see it, but I assumed she was going to pull it out somehow. And it gets 1 in the morning, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Now, this was a certain amount of terror associated with this because even though I voted Jill Stein, I thought Donald Trump was a maniac. Like, me being willing to say, no, I'm taking Jill Stein for various reasons doesn't necessarily mean I'm completely oblivious to the Republican itself. And I've bought into a lot of the propaganda that Hillary Clinton was putting in too. It's just my position mattered more. The reason I say this is I'm going to work the next day, and you had all these Hillary Clinton supporters looking down. It's like they had really nasty sex with somebody, and they couldn't look each other in the eye the next morning. It was one of those situations. They come in looking down. That made me feel a little good, pretty good. This chart was shocking. Now, lefties had taken the position of, particularly progressive left, and said, look, this is your failures. You failed on a massive fucking level, and you've handed us over to maniacs. In failing on that massive fucking level, you've lost like 1,100 seats all throughout the United States. You've lost governorships all throughout the United States. And now you've lost the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the presidency of the federal government. You failed. Completely, utterly failed. No hedge, just absolute failure. The left took this to say is, look, your legitimacy, or the thing that you're using to define your legitimacy, us being the grown-ups in the room, that no longer applies. How can you say you're the grown-ups in the room with a chart that looks like this running against a goddamn reality show host? You got slaughtered. You were rejected by the American population. Utter and complete rejection of the population. The left took this and said, look, you failed. You do not have the capacity to get elected running in the corporatist way that you run. There needs to be fundamental changes in the way things run, meaning from a policy standpoint. Now, the left is right in this, particularly since our person, Sanders, had that support, had a wide array of support all throughout the United States, all throughout racial demographics and everything else, because Sanders' biggest issue was economics. Democrats didn't take this message to heart. Instead, they scream Russia at the top of their lungs. Now, built into the progressive message is your legitimacy has expired. It's gone. How can you say you're legitimate when you've lost everything? Hell, when you've lost a reality show host at that, the easiest contest on the planet. You put a ham sandwich up against Donald Trump, and we would have President Ham Sandwich being inaugurated. But they chose Clinton. So we got Donald Trump. Democrats combated this argument that you failed, you fucked up, you lost miserably, it was all your fault, you couldn't get those people votes, you couldn't appeal to the public, etc., etc., etc. They did not take that to heart. They didn't do any particular level of introspection. And instead, they said it was everybody else's fault, particularly Russia's, that we lost, including fake news. Fake news. We lost because of fake news. Now, Robert Mueller has been doing an investigation, supposedly in collusion between Trump and Russia, because again, this is one of those things Democrats screamed about. And this is one of the things that they dredged up a FISA warrant on, essentially wiretapping Donald Trump in the same way that Donald Trump said he was being wiretapped. The problem with this is Mueller comes out and says, we found Russian trolls. We found Russian trolls. And those Russian trolls were spreading fake news. They're spreading fake news. Democrats have been looking for anything that they can hang their hat on to as to why they lost. The Democratic voters have no paradigm for Trump losing because all of their publications told them that they were going to win. So if you bring up anything that they can cling to, they're going to cling to it. And in this case, fake news. They clung to fake news, that Russia was putting out fake news and that Russia spending like $150,000 on trolling was the thing that undermined Hillary Clinton's $1 billion campaign. This is what they clung to. They've assiduously clung to this idea of fake news. Fake news hit Hillary Clinton in the knees. Fake news was rampant. Fake news took down Hillary Clinton's $1 billion campaign. If you're that incompetent, you don't deserve to be president. If you're that incompetent, you don't deserve to be president. And I got to be honest, if you're that gullible to believe the story that these guys are putting out, that fake news was the thing that caused it. Take a look at this. I wanted to spell something for the moment. This is Stanford study examines fake news in the 2016 presidential election. I'm going to leave the link here, but at the end of the day, what they say is fake news had little to no impact on the election. Want another study? Here's another one. New York Times. Fake news, wide reach but little impact suggests study. I'm adding this study also. I'm not going to go through the technical details of it, but at the end of the day, it boils down to the same thing. No, fake news did not outweigh all of the other sources in the way in which people get their information. Now, the interesting part is that what they did show had the biggest impact was the regular traditional media sources. So, for example, the $2 billion worth of media, free media, for Donald Trump. When they would have Donald Trump's empty podium up there because Donald Trump put asses in seats. Donald Trump was a reality show host, and Donald Trump fed off the reality of this particular situation. You guys kept a camera on him because you guys realized that Donald Trump was a profit-making enterprise. This became less about the politics and more about the actual idea that this reality show host was actually running in the political scene. It wasn't the fake news from the Russians. It wasn't the troll factory. The issue here was the way the media covered Donald Trump in the first place. The fact that the public was looking for something else in the first place. The fact that the financial divisions, that the racial divisions, that those things were in the society itself. It wasn't Russian trolls. The biggest mover and shaker in regards to changing the public opinion or pushing the public opinion on this was the regular news shows. The regular news shows. It wasn't fake news. This is... Let's see. What's the name? Columbia Journalism Review. Don't blame the election on fake news. Blame it on the media. Now, I'm going to leave this here, but the point they're making here is right here. Even recent claims that the real numbers were much higher than initially reported do not change the basic imbalance. For example, on October 3rd, New York Times story reported that the Russian agents disseminated inflammatory posts that reached 126 million users on Facebook, published more than 131,000 messages on Twitter, and uploaded over 1,000 videos on YouTube. Big numbers indeed, but several paragraphs later, the authors concede that over the same period, Facebook users were exposed to 11 trillion posts, roughly 87,000 for every fake news exposure. Although on Twitter, the Russian-linked election tweets represented less than 0.75% of all the election-related tweets. On YouTube, meanwhile, the total number of viewers of fake Russian videos was around 309,000 compared to 5 billion YouTube videos that were watched every day. What they're getting at is we're dwarfs in media. And studies is making the point that no, fake news did not have an impact on people's voting decisions. Even if people saw it, people didn't necessarily believe it. The study was showing that no, the impact was not there. These guys are grasping at ghosts. And on the second point, the thing that did have an impact was A, the way they covered Donald Trump, and B, the real divisions that were in the society itself that drove those behaviors. If you're looking for the media exposure, however, it was not the fake news, it was not the Russian trolls, it was the regular news stations. New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, mainstream news, meaning CNN, MSNBC, those guys, what those guys talked about and what those guys didn't talk about, meaning the sensational stories as opposed to getting down to the basic politics of it. They changed it into this type of form that Donald Trump would excel at. It became more about reality TV as opposed to the actual bare-bone basis of politics. I'm going to put all these stories in. My point that I'm getting at is, even if it's true that you had Russian trolls in this country, the fake news that they were spewing, study after study, and analysis of the stuff shows that they had little to no impact. Even if everything that they're saying is right, their impact was still nil. This chart, that wasn't because of fake news. She lost on her own merits. That was their loss. That was their failure. It's time to get over it and move on from the Russian nonsense. All right, guys. I mean, and by the way, the Russia stuff is to the obfuscate. It's not a reality to it. It's selective justice at best. And look, the point I'm trying to make here is fake news was not the thing that changed the election cycle itself. Fake news had little to no impact. All the articles will be at the bottom. All right, guys. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.